So in this video, I want to share about Roy London, who was so important to me as a acting student. He was not just an acting teacher, but he really was a mentor. He really helped to shape not only myself, but a lot of other actors, and a lot of actors that you know today, like Brad Pitt, Gina Davis, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, not to mention Sharon Stone. Roy was single-handedly responsible for changing Sharon Stone's career from an ingenue that worked all the time that no one knew to the superstar Sharon Stone that she became. And it was all because he told her to audition for Basic Instincts, wearing no panties. So in this episode, I am going to give you some pointers that Roy taught me, as well as share some pointers that friends were taught by Roy. Where did you go from there?
To our wonderful teacher.
Who's that?
Roy London, of course.
Roy was probably the best teacher I've ever studied with in my life.
What a brilliant mind.
Yes,
It's a
yes,
brilliant mind.
Roy, I studied with the longest, 9 years. I was with
Did you?
Roy for 9
Did you
years.
really?
He
Wow.
was my man.
In New York?
Here at his house.
Right. It was
And
his house
so
there.
I started at his house. And so
Yeah.
Roy was very, he gave so many tools.
And we were so lucky because
We were.
we got him in the beginning.
Yes.
And then he became this big famous
Yes.
teacher, for Sharon Stone,
Yes.
Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis,
Gary Shandling, Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and the list goes on and on and on.
And
Yeah.
I remember when Roy turned to us one day and he said, "How does it feel to be the queen bee?"
Yeah, we were so
Class.
excited.
We had come through so much, but we
Yes.
felt it.
What were a couple of tips that you got from him as an actor that you still use today?
Be myself. Just bring who I am to everything that I do and bring the best me. And then also making positive choices.
And
To
what are the
open you.
doings? The doings was one of the most important things I remember Roy teaching us, was you have to have doings. And even if it's, one little thing that you're, looking at, it's whatever. That was a phenomenal pearl of wisdom.
But he would always say, stop trying to be the salad. Just be the carrot, or pick a vegetable, be that vegetable. And then they're going to want that vegetable all kinds of ways. But you got to be that vegetable.
That's right.
Understanding that my idea of a scene was not the scene.
And the other thing that I loved learning in Roy's class was when you were really doing your work, how your face changed. When I'm looking at actors, I can always tell when they're really doing their work.
He was so affirming in terms of kind of the stuff that I teach now, of just like, who are you and what are you going to bring to this? Yeah, do your homework, everything else, but what are these things about you that's unique? And the way he taught was different with every single person.
Right. If you were in his class, by the third month, you knew what you were selling.
And it really meant something in those days.
He was very intuitive to make sure that you were doing scenes in class that really reflected who you were.
And that was the thing about Roy. He would zero in and find that spot where you would become vulnerable, and then he would find his way in and you would feel what it felt like to be real in a scene. And that was magic. And so it wasn't the scene, it wasn't the idea of the scene, playing the scene that became what you went for. It was letting go of it.
Because he was a playwright, the text analysis was so important.
Roy London, I learned action.
Roy's technique. Who are you thinking of? What do you want in this shot?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was fantastic. So I just
That's what we as
wanted
actors
to-
need. I mean,
Yes,
we
yes,
want to
yes,
connect
yes,
to the
yes,
camera
yes,
and that's
yes.
what makes a great headshot.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing was I was working a lot in television, and Roy kind of noticed and said, a lot of my students are studying with me, but they're not working. So you must have some tips in terms of auditioning. So he said, why don't you teach for me?
I think what I learned with Roy was if you do your work well, then you only need one take. Even if the actor working alongside of you was not
Giving you anything.
technical, that by you just zooming in and wanting stuff from them made
Right.
them go. And one of the first things that I learned and I was able to use is that Roy would say, get something from them.
Anytime I was on television, Roy would call afterwards and give me a critique. And I remember distinctly when I did one show, I can't remember what it was, but he called me and said, "That's what you play. Do that. You're every man, and you're going to have an incredible career in your 40s." And he was totally right. In my 40s, I never stopped working. Just the kind of person that really brought out the best in everyone.
A couple of other things that Roy was great at was he really focused in on each actor and pulling on their essence. He was able to say, this is what you sell, and which gave every actor the freedom, which then gave actors the confidence to go out and sell their essence. One of the greatest things that I learned from Roy, just like a ton of other students, was to be able to self-direct yourself. He trained us, so if we went on set and we had a director who really wasn't paying attention to anything we were doing because they were so focused on the star, we could be able to figure out how we could tweak our work. One of the things he always told us when we finished a scene was, where were you on and where were you off? And as an actor, that's really important because you can self-examine, oh, I did good here, but I didn't do good there. So then in the next take, I could go ahead and correct that moment that I didn't bring the goods. And I find that so helpful. I use it all the time in my work. Was I on here? Was I off here? How do I fix it? Do I need to make a hotter choice? Do I need to make a hotter substitution? This is where I really need to increase my stakes. So I am so grateful that for 9 years I got to work under Roy London. For me, he died too soon. He died when he was 50, and I still miss him. And the legacy that he has left behind is amazing. There's so many acting teachers out here today who studied under Roy. Just to name a few, there's Ivana Chubbuck and Ken Lerner, who both studied under Roy and also taught under him. And the legacy that he has left has made such a huge mark in Hollywood, and I don't want people to forget him. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Did you study with Roy? Do you know someone who studied with Roy? Or do you have an acting teacher right now that you love and you got a great piece of information from that you can share with us? I would love to know, and I'm sure our subscribers would love to know as well. Well, please, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get all the videos in real time, and share with your friends. It will bless them just like it did you. We love you, Roy.
We love you, Roy.
So much.
Oh my
Yes.
God.